Hello, my name is Charles and I have Johne's. I haven't had a clinical case for 3 months and 2 days. This is a self-help type mantra that many dairy farmers are unwilling or unable to utter. Johne's disease, or paratuberculosis, is a chronic wasting disease of ruminants from giraffes to gazelles, but is most destructive in the domesticated species, where the intensive nature of rearing propagates its spread. The insidious nature of this bacterial disease infects that most susceptible of creatures, the newborn. Infected manure on teats, in colostrum, and later in feed and water is ingested by the calf. And so the bacteria incubates, completely undetectable until the cow matures. Proliferation of billions of these bacteria in the small intestine causes a thickening of the gut wall, halting absorption of nutrients, and in cattle causing diarrhea, emaciation, and eventual death. There is no cure. Infection in the herd is likened to the iceberg principle, where the few clinical cases seen belies the large number of subclinical animals hidden within the herd. The fact that disease can lie dormant between 2 and 10 years is a major issue in its detection and therefore control. And it's a frustration at the vagueness associated with the practical control of the disease in my business that led me on a worldwide journey to see how others perceive the disease and what can be done and be put in place over the last 50 years or so to control it or not. I didn't hang about. A week after receiving my award, I was in Sydney at the 11th International Colloquium on Paratuberculosis, where 300 scientists and one slightly confused Sussex dairy farmer became immersed in all things Johne's, not literally, I may add. The intense scientific interest in this disease and millions of dollars of funding spent looking into it in the last 15 years has been on the back of a proposed link with Crohn's disease in humans, a link that the dairy industry can thank its lucky stars has not been proven. While in Sydney, my big break appeared in the form of the Para-TB Forum, where 8 countries sat round and discussed Johne's control. And the forum proceedings became my Bible for my later travels. If you're one of the 70% of UK dairy farmers possibly infected with Johne's, you are not alone on the world dairy stage. Colleagues in France, Australia, Canada and the USA are at similar levels, while the Kiwis, acting more like ostriches, wouldn't be very lucky to find a herd without Johne's in it. Only the Swedes can sit smugly with a level of 0.1% prevalence. Control programs have a rather checkered past. Historical mandatory testing, quarantine and culling in many countries sent the disease underground. So the approach was changed to voluntary funded programs, pushing education, risk assessment management programs and practical control measures to a now wary farmer. Denmark was my next port of call, home of Professor Søren Nielsen, who was well known to all those in the field of Johne's control, and helping to develop a UK programme based on Danish experiences. Using the traffic light system of risk identification, red cows are highly positive and green cows are test negative. For a country that has eradicated all the other major cattle diseases, I thought there would have been more enthusiasm within the country, within the industry in the country, to try and nail Johne's. But only 30% of dairy farmers participate in this programme. With funding of the programme and research into Johne's now removed, it is a struggle to keep farmers engaged. I spent a few days with Lena Trier, who was instrumental in developing farm meetings to educate producers into reducing the transmission of Johne's. The facilitator provides encouragement and does not provide a ready-made answer. As they say, give a farmer a problem and he finds a solution. Give him a solution and he'll find a problem. My visit to the USA was based in the dairying states of Minnesota and Wisconsin, both at the forefront of Johne's control and education. But from 1996 to 2007, MAP infection increased by 45% to 68% cattle infected. More worrying is that 95% of herds over 500 cows are also said to be infected. Professor Scott Wells from the University of Minnesota set out to prove that control strategies were working. He investigated calving pen management, off-site heifer rearing, colostrum management, milk feeding programs, management of the adult cattle and vaccination. As you can imagine, long-term trials are expensive, and the fact that the average lifespan of a US dairy cow is between 2 and 2.5 lactations does not help. The University of Madison holds Professor Mike Collins, the godfather of Johne's control in the US. He provides a reality check between researchers and farmers regarding the practical costs of controls of testing in Johne's. He has to explain to them the idea is to put the disease out of business and not the farmer. And also to farmers that affordable tests are not perfect and that perfect tests are not affordable. Canada has around 75% of dairy herds infected, but a low within-herd prevalence. Canadian dairy farmers seemed a happy bunch, despite quotas, with a high milk price and good infrastructure. Provincial control programs had only been in place for 2 or 3 years, but were already coming to an end due to a lack of funding. I spent time in Ontario, speaking to farmers who were involved in Johne's control focus meetings, using a VETIS facilitator, but with very positive results. Ontario was very proactive in removing high titer cows from the food chain, with Canada really being the only country where I saw this in operation. I returned to Australia in March 2013 to gain some comfort from the Nuffield family. The scientific and sensitive nature of Johne's meant that in most countries I had to follow a strict chain of command, from scientists to national programme coordinators to vets and finally to see a farmer if I was lucky. Everyone in that chain worried what I was going to report and to whom. The Australians couldn't give a stuff. Australia tried the stick approach of quarantining and blacklisting infected herds back in the 1970s, where no one in their right mind would admit to a case. The problem is the carrot approach of voluntary funded programmes fared little better. They have settled on not talking about Johne's at all, but focusing on calf health, because everyone wants to reduce calf mortality. Inadvertently, the suggested protocols reduce the risk of Johne's infection as well. I fitted in China on my return to the UK. I wanted to see where Johne's was on the agenda of a country that was importing in thousands of untestable dairy heifers. My visit to a 10,000 cow unit, cancelled due to an outbreak of foot and mouth, spoke volumes. Johne's wasn't on the agenda. In Ireland, I met Johne, a farmer director of Processor Carberry. They produce high-value ingredients, including infant formula. After having a shipment of this formula turned back from Russia due to a lack of Johne's protocols, they have spearheaded a national campaign to try and protect their export market. None more strongly than John, a lovely chap who could fit more expletives into a sentence than I thought humanly possible. Again, the Netherlands realised their 60% export market must be protected. The Dutch now have mandatory testing, and although you realise Johne's can't be eradicated, it can be kept at very low levels in raw milk and down to 0 levels after pasteurisation. And so to the UK. Despite regional initiatives, the Johne's story has been left very much untold. With no government intervention, as seen in other national programmes, it is left to the processors to rise to the challenge. There is no doubt that the overshadowing effect that TB has had on the national psyche of the farmer has allowed Johne's and other diseases to slip in under the radar. BSE and foot and mouth have played their part, triggering huge restocking of possible subclinical cows from both within the country and also international imports. But wait, before you reach for that strychnine-laced apple, there is some positive news. Individually, farmers can put in place protocols that can drastically reduce incidence of Johne's in their herds. By a combination of testing and culling at one end and very astute calf management at the other, control is possible. The calf's susceptibility to infection reduces over time, so the first few hours of life are crucial. Snatch calving, pasteurising colostrum and quarantining cows from adult manure will drastically reduce the level and risk of infection. Don't buy in the disease on the back of a lorry. An untested herd should be seen as infected. Staff must buy into the protocols 100%, as one cut corner can lead to failure. There is no quick fix, expected to take 8 to 10 years to be clear of this disease. If you don't think you have Johne's in your herd, then test and test again, and keep it out with a passion. On a personal level, our incidence is falling from 15% positive in one herd to 9%. I'm on the Johne's Action Group and hope to inspire other farmers to keep up with the Johne's. I would like to thank Nuffield and the Dartington Cattle Breeding Trust for the opportunities they've afforded to me, and the perseverance of my wife Serena, family and staff while I was being away. Lastly, my thanks to my inspiration and father, the late great Jim Harrison. Thank you.